All right.
Yeah. Turn that echo up, Cruz. Way up. Shit like I'm Jackie Chan. Some of this living, we back again.
All right. Welcome to a live show of Scotty Talks Philly Sports, guys.
What's going on?
All right. Let's see what's going on here. Make sure everything's squared away. All right. Welcome. So turn that off.
Hey, this is the first time we're working out all the glitches.
Yeah,
right?
Getting all the kinks out.
Watching. Stay tuned. We got a great show coming. We're getting it shared out there. We're getting it all the kinks worked out right on the fly.
Yes, sir. Making sure everything is squared away. And then we will get started. All right.
Look at that. 10 people already watching live. Make sure you're dropping comments too. Anybody watching? Comment. We'll answer them all.
Yes, sir. We will answer all the questions tonight. That is why we are going live.
This is why we do it. Dallas week, right?
All right, man. Let's get started, boys. Welcome to the show. I got my buddy here, Beard of Knowledge, Phil Stifle, all about the birds. Got my man Sam Wagman, Fourth and Joan writer for Section 215. You know, a guy that's usually he's been on my show a couple times now. You know, Phil's been on my show a couple times. Any new viewers, welcome to the show. This is Scotty Talks Philly Sports. Finally got the opportunity to go live week of Dallas. So I know everybody here is excited, man. And you know, I'm ready. I'm ready to dig in Dallas's ass already, you know. I don't care how bad that both teams are. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, we're gonna just dive into some Cowboys talk. We'll answer some questions and you know, kind of just get ready for the game. It should be a fun show. These guys know their stuff, and you know, screw Dallas.
Dallas hate
definitely check out the show. You know, Scotty Talks Philly Sports on YouTube, all main streaming sites.
Hell yeah.
Stomp in a mud hole.
Stomp in a mud hole. I like that one.
Right.
Goddamn right.
So what's up, guys, man? Welcome back to the show. How are you guys feeling going into the Dallas game this Sunday?
I feel great. You know, this is the first time that I've really felt good about a game all season. Dallas looks like trash, don't they? Like, can anybody argue that we might blow them out 30-10? Even worse, maybe?
I'm feeling that confident. I think the 7.5 point spread, at least that's what it was last night, is too low.
No,
I've already got I don't bet the Eagles ever. And I'm going. I'm taking that 7.5 points, and I'm running wild with it for sure.
Is it 7.5?
That's what it was last night when we were doing the show last night. It had gone from 6 to 6.5 up to 7.5. So it's.
I think they're waiting to see whether Andy Dalton plays or not to really put out that official line. Because I think if DiNucci plays, that line will shoot up to 10.
Yeah, I actually saw that 90% of the money was coming in on the Eagles. So that's going to change the line so much.
Yeah.
That's where the confidence level is right now. I don't know about
nobody wants to bet the Cowboys.
30,
Nobody wants to bet the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, you say 30-10, I say 28-10, whatever. I mean, we're gonna cruise this game.
Yeah,
bad to be.
I got 33-10 myself, man.
Oh, yeah, Kyle.
I'm feeling like you know, I feel like this is, you know, Carson's game. He can finally not be tormented by a defensive line. You know, the Cowboys are emptying out they're emptying out all their tanks right there.
Right.
You saw
they've already released 3 guys. They've
traded Everson Griffin, Worley. So I'm thinking Carson might finally get some time back there to dissect the defense and get to work, man. He's just been working under pressure the entire season. So I'm kind of excited for that. Before we dive into the actual game this weekend, you know, kind of just wanted to go over some of you guys' like favorite moments, you know, as long as you've been an Eagles fan, you know, beating up on the Cowboys. I got 3 specific ones right here that I decided to look up today and, you know, rejoice in. What about you guys? What do you guys got?
I think mine might be probably similar to you guys. You guys are a little younger, so you might have been babies during it and all. But I don't even have to describe it. All I have to say is 4th and 1 times 2. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about when I say that, right?
Yeah.
1995.
Yeah.
You know, when Barry Switzer went for it on 4th down, got stopped, but there was a penalty. They reran that play or a timeout. They reran that play. He ran the same exact play. And my favorite linebacker of all time, Willie T, came up with the huge stop on that play. That I remember exactly where I was. I remember everything about that situation. It's like my favorite moment in Eagles history right there against the Cowboys.
See, mine is obviously more recent. I was 13, and the Phillies had just won the World Series, 44-6.
Yep.
Come on. It's one of the great Eagles-Cowboys games that we've ever had. It was a bloodbath.
Oh, yeah. Hey, and this is actually on my list, Griffin. The Lito Shepherd interception, the 102-yard return. He picked off Drew Bledsoe. I think that was back in 2006, man. Ran the Cowboys into the ground that game.
I'm going to give you a game that you guys – it's another bad moment, but it entrenched my hatred for the Cowboys. It was when I was 12 years old on Halloween, 10/31, 1993. Emmitt Smith rushed for like 230 yards in that game, and it was his longest touchdown of his career, a 63-yarder to seal that game. It ruined Halloween night for me. I did not want to go out trick-or-treating. What 12-year-old doesn't want to go trick-or-treating? It ruined Halloween. And I already hated the Cowboys, but that just sealed the deal as my least favorite moment. And the hatred of the Cowboys I still hate Halloween because of it.
Yeah, so I had to
Imagine hating Halloween.
Right. We're right up on Halloween, man. I also had the to put it in perspective, I was born in 1993, Phil.
I was born in 95.
Man, there's some gray hair if this zoomed in, you'd see all the gray hair in this beard.
Hey, man, but my other one, I have two other ones that just came to my mind today, and maybe they aren't my favorite, maybe they are. They just literally came to my mind. But I remember a Thanksgiving game where Mark Sanchez was the quarterback, man, and we walked up on the Cowboys on Thanksgiving with Mark Sanchez, humble king, and I remember, I think it's the same game Malcolm Jenkins popped Des Bryant and like made his mouth bleed too. I think it was all in the same game there. And that was definitely one of my favorite moments. And then, of course, I know you guys remember in 2010, Deshaun Jackson and Mike Vick, Deshaun Jackson falling in the end zone on that 91-yarder. Yep. That was also a beautiful one.
We didn't even mention. I just figured you would go. I know you guys are younger and all, but I figured somebody would say like the pickle juice game from 2000. I love the pickle juice game. That's like the passing of the torch from the Cowboys, the team of America, into the Eagles and McNabb and Andy Reid taking over that division. That was a huge moment in Eagles Dallas history, and that game set the tone. I mean, I don't think Andy Reid was ever that aggressive again. Onside kick to start the game, but that game, Deuce Staley had a huge game that game.
Deuce.
That's right. Should be calling the plays.
Yeah. Which that's something we can definitely get into before we get out of here, man. But and then before we dive into analytics and analyzing what's about to happen this weekend, I also just wanted to touch on a few of the guys that I just hate on that team right now. And it's honestly, there's not too many guys that they're not too gritty for me, to really hate them. There's really two guys that I specifically think of. Obviously, I hate the whole Dallas team, but specifically DeMarcus Lawrence and the smart, slick stuff that he said about Carson Wentz, did not like that. Obviously Ezekiel Elliott with the stuff in his face, big fat running back.
He's really the only one I can't stand, honestly.
I was about to say, I can't really. It's just Zeke that stands out.
Yeah,
and Jerry Jones.
Jones, yeah. Forever hatred from my heart. But even Dak, I was kind of falling for the hate for him, but his story is too. Yeah. He's too good of a dude for me to really hate on him. You know what I mean? But
I want him to go to another team really bad so I could cheer for him.
Yeah. He seems like someone you really want to root for. He seems like someone you want to succeed because he was never supposed to succeed, but he's succeeding. And he'll be a very rich man, whether it comes from Dallas or not.
Absolutely.
So I guess we'll just start, how did you guys feel about the New York Giants game? I haven't actually touched base with you guys on direct feelings about that game and coming
More nervous than I should have been. More nervous than I should have been.
Yeah.
I drank a lot more vodka than I should have because of that game. But you know what? To really stop I don't want to joke totally. I mean, the Wentz leadership factor and the fact that he could put a team on his back and carry them in the clutch moments just solidifies for me what kind of a quarterback and leader Carson Wentz is. I don't know what you guys think of Wentz per se, but you know what? Carson Wentz, in my mind, proved once again why he is the franchise quarterback with that team that he was out there with.
Yeah, my friends continue to clown me about never giving up on Carson Wentz. I've never once said I don't like the guy. Even this season, I just said, maybe he looks a little off. Maybe he's struggling to adjust to a new system. I thought it was only a matter of time. The interceptions worry me, but we'll see about that. But I think he's fine, and I think he really was just trying to adjust to a new system. And really, he hasn't. It's not like he has much to work with. We're back to where we were at the end of last season again. We're the worst offensive line this time, and surely we can't overlook the fact that Jason Peters is probably going to ruin it all again when they put him back in to play left tackle this season. So,
yeah. So I mean, as far as Wentz, I mean, I hate to say he's like the least of my concerns. You know what I mean?
Oh, by far.
I'm not worried about Wentz. I know everybody, for some reason, and especially this last game against the Giants, I'm very active during the games, tweeting, paying attention, and just kind of seeing how the room feels, as far as Eagles fans when they're watching the game. And it just seems like everybody just nitpicks, you know what I mean? He makes one bad throw. It's like, oh, what's he doing? Or, holds the ball too long one time. You can't nitpick Carson Wentz, and I think we've all said that this week. Let Wentz be Wentz. We know who Carson Wentz is now. He is 5 years in. He's a guy that may take a bad sack sometimes. That's part of his game. Part of him getting out and making those crazy plays where he ducks under a sack and, gets out of the pocket and throws it downfield. That doesn't happen if he doesn't hold the ball too long. So you got to take the negative with the positive, understand that. Also, I think the other thing is that everybody is expecting Wentz to just be this like Patrick Mahomes, like Russell Wilson type guy. And not everybody's like that. There's literally only a few guys in the NFL that can be that way or that level of play. And, just be happy. We have a franchise quarterback, a guy that, he throws an interception here and there. Obviously, it's been worse this season. He has 10 interceptions. We all know that. But he's also been the most pressured QB in the league. So,
right.
You gotta give and take, man, and you gotta look at what's around him and what he's played with, the last two seasons to be exact. And it's fourth string guys, it's third string guys, practice squad stars, you know what I mean? And you can't blame Wentz for a lot of this stuff, man. Now, there was two plays in that Giants game where I was really like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing, Wentz? Slow it down. The one, they were both in that same drive where he threw the interception. The interception was the one I'm just like, you don't want to throw that. That's a waste of points. But even before that interception, he got really close. He was on the right side of the field, and he threw across his body to the other side of the field. And that is just like great.
Fulgham almost caught that ball, too.
I know. Fulgham almost catches everything, literally. But I thought that was like grade school level QB play. Like, you do not throw across your body across the field horizontally. That's a no-no, especially in the NFL. That's a pick six waiting to happen. But no, I'm not worried about Wentz. I would say the main concern right now is that offensive line. And you mentioned it, Sam. Jason Peters coming back. How do you feel about that, Phil? I know how you guys feel.
Well, I don't like the Jason Peters coming back, but I just want to touch on one thing with Wentz with you guys, and I brought it up. I brought it up on the Heat Ratio podcast last night, and I want to make sure people are very clear when I bring it up this time. I am not saying Carson Wentz is this player, okay? But Carson Wentz has said he has modeled his playing style and was his idol as a kid was Brett Favre. And you look at Brett Favre, I was just pulling up his stats right now. Brett Favre led the league in interceptions 3 different times. He threw 336 interceptions in 16 years, Brett Favre.
Right.
Okay?
He just likes to chuck it down the field.
He chucks it, but he's always trying to push for the extra play. And that's what Carson Wentz is. He's not Brett Favre, but he's playing like Brett Favre because that's who he idolized. And you take the good with the bad, like you said, and Brett Favre won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Brett Favre got to multiple Super Bowls. So I'll take Carson Wentz, uber aggressive, not throwing it away, taking the sack at the bad time. If on the flip side, he's throwing dimes to Boston Scott on the goal line or, wherever. So I just wanted to bring that up again. It's something that a narrative I've been pushing a lot lately. And I think it's something that we have to think about when we criticize him, why he's doing it and all.
So I definitely also think it's important to, reference the fact that Brett Favre was playing with some great talents back in those days too.
True.
I mean, he had Randy Moss when he was with the Vikings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did he at that point?
Yeah. He had
Yep.
he had a couple good wide receivers with the Packers throughout his career.
He really did.
Yeah.
So I mean, he had Donald Driver. He had Greg Jennings. I mean, he had those guys at
Legit
that time.
guys,
Yeah, he had legit talents, and he had an offensive line too. They had good lines when he was in Green Bay. So
yeah, he was just completely reckless.
To say Wentz is going to end up, with that many interceptions, and when comparing him, you have to also note that he's not going to be like Brett Favre. They'll come at you and they'll say, "Oh, why is he playing as good as Brett Favre did?" Well, it's because he doesn't have the weapons that they did. He can be the same style of player, the same style that Peyton Manning was as well, but with much worse talent.
Exactly.
Once the talent improves around him, and that may not happen until a new front office is in place, it'll start to improve.
And then you want to go back to the Jason Peters, when your front office and your coaching staff clearly is developing the left tackle of the future, and a guy that couldn't stay healthy, couldn't play right guard, couldn't play left tackle, couldn't do anything, is coming back, and you're going to move Mailata off that spot, stunt his growth to put good old 38-year-old Jason Peters. And I know he's a Hall of Fame caliber player. It's just this is where Wentz's problems come with, because the front office and coaching staff doesn't have an agreement on the future of this team or the direction of this team, because Peterson goes one way, Howie goes the other, and the third coach, Jim Schwartz, goes in the other direction. Yeah. They're all pointing in different directions, and that's where the problem for Wentz is coming, because there is no direction.
Yeah, you can definitely see the cracks in this front office and the disconnect between the coaching staff and them.
Yeah, I think it's clear between Howie and Doug. I don't even know if they even get along, honestly.
There's video of them arguing on the sideline in practice a week or two ago.
Yeah, and to your point, to you guys' points about Brett Favre comparison, I love the comparison to Big Ben. In all honesty, I think they had very similar track records. Obviously, Big Ben, I think he won the Super Bowl in his second or first season. But aside from that, Big Ben was a guy that, was mobile. He liked to move around a lot. He was a bigger guy. And he got beat up at the beginning of his career. So he slowed down a little bit, started staying in the pocket a little bit more. But just to put it in perspective, I know Wentz is year 5 right now. But to put it in perspective, all the guys that were throwing Wentz out the door, these first 3 games, he threw all those interceptions. I think he was throwing 2 interceptions a game or something like that. Big Ben in his 4th season in the league threw 23 interceptions. That's over 20 interceptions. And, I don't think Steelers fans were calling for Big Ben to lose his job and, throw the rookie quarterback in, thinking that he's going to do better with a makeshift offensive line. So I do like to bring up that point. I know people don't like comparing, I know people don't like comparing, him to these legendary, Hall of Fame quarterbacks. It's a little too early, obviously. I know that, but you're allowed to, there's player prototypes out there and players that are similar to one another. How do you feel about, Wentz running the ball? Because it seems like it is getting more and more each game. I don't mind the scrambling. It's the QB draws. I think how many times did he run a QB draw against the Giants? And it looked like they were
Understood.
into a brick wall. I mean, it was so predictable. Even the QB sneaks at this point, are predictable to an extent. And that falls back on Doug. We can talk about Doug and the play calling. I mean, the red zone play calling has been atrocious. It's been atrocious. It looks like we don't have a red zone playbook. He said he ran out of plays against the Ravens there on those 2-point conversions. How do you run out of red zone plays? Is the goal not to score? I don't understand how you run out of plays down there. How do you guys feel about that stuff? Doug in general right now. He's so inconsistent.
It's whoever's calling the majority of the offensive plays, which seems to be Doug. I don't know what it is. Maybe it just exhausted everything creative that he had over the past 2 seasons because everything just looks vanilla. As my buddy Soko says, it's his favorite brand of ice cream, and that's his style of play calling right now. It looks terrible. It looks basic every game. And we've heard from multiple anonymous coordinators around the league say Philly is too easy to game plan for. You always know what they're gonna do. You always know when Wentz is gonna throw, and you always know when to stack the box against them because they'll just try to run it up the gut.
Yeah,
it's predictable.
It is like you said, so predictable. You're saying all these quarterback draws up the middle and whatnot. If you want Carson Wentz to run, roll him out from side to side a little bit more frequently, so that if he doesn't if he's rolling to the right and there isn't a downfield open receiver or target, then he can just roll along the sideline, get what yards he can, get out of bounds. Get out of bounds. You save a hit on your quarterback. You're running Boston Scott up the middle instead of zone draws out to the outside. Like you got to call the plays that utilize the talent. I know Doug Peterson is struggling just like Carson Wentz. He doesn't have the talent he was expected to have out there. But you know what? You got to utilize what talent you have and take advantage of that. Jalen Hurts, he's a talent. Whether we like him or not, whatever you want to say about him, they're not even using him right or enough. There's so much more creativity that Doug Peterson can do, but I think he's lost confidence in himself because at first he was scared with the lack of talent. He didn't have Alshon Jeffries. He's lost Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. His offensive line has been in shambles since week 1. I just think he lost confidence in his own players, and that's why he's vanillaing up the play calling.
Yeah, so I thought George had an interesting comment here. So do you think some of this is Wentz, checking out of the play? I mean, some of those red zone plays, you do see him, do some stuff around the line of scrimmage. Is that him audibling to these read option plays at the goal line, these QB draws at the goal line? I mean, is this Wentz or is it Doug? I mean, it's so hard to decipher, who it actually is. And I think the easiest answer is that the Eagles need an offensive coordinator. I mean, it's as plain as day. Doug has too much on his plate. He runs an entire team, and he is such a player-based coach. He's got to focus on keeping these guys resilient, fighting through injuries, and just keeping the energy high in the locker room. And I think maybe it's starting to take away from his play calling, his play design. They brought in all these, offensive minds in the offseason, and it just hasn't showed. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're playing with. You can be creative. I mean, you look at the 49ers, the Rams offense, and I think those are like the prototype offenses that the Eagles should be looking for and looking to run. I mean, if their offense fits what the Eagles have, especially when we get guys like Rieger back and, just all that motioning before the snap, the Eagles don't do any of that. I mean, we don't do wide receiver sweeps. If we do a sweep, it's with, Greg Ward, who's not an overly athletic guy. So it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? They do the wrong plays they do the right plays with the wrong people, I should say. And a lot of the time it just looks, it looks confused, and it's so frustrating. I mean, against the Giants, I am literally heated. And, I'm sitting there after that first drive, they didn't score again until the end of the third quarter.
Let me ask you a question then. What did they do on that first drive that made them so successful? What did they do?
They motioned around. They
ran an up-tempo offense.
Yes.
No huddle.
And they did not go back to it till the end of the game when they were in crunch time and they were down.
Right. And they had to. They didn't have a choice.
They had to at that point.
Right.
Why wasn't Doug Peterson saying, all right, Carson, when it was in up-tempo, you were calling the right plays, you were making the right decisions at the line, just run that 2 or 3 more times a game. It's obviously every single week. And we talked about it last night again, was that it looks like a lot of teams that run the up-tempo offense more frequently have more success on offense because defenses get tired, they get worn down, then you could start pounding the rock and doing whatever else you want to do. You know, that up-tempo offense is geared for an offense like the Eagles, keeps the defenses on their toes. And there's no explanation on why they're not doing it more often.
Yeah.
My question is, where's the RPOs been? I know that was more of a Nick Folesian type thing, you know, when we needed it a couple of years ago, but I think it works just as well with Wentz. I think he likes running the RPOs, having the option there. Certainly with Miles Sanders out, it's not as effective, but the RPO was a major key for us in 2017 and 2018. It literally won us a Super Bowl. And shouldn't we try it again?
That's like one of my main, concerns, I would say, is, everybody would talk about how the offense would look a lot more fluid, when Nick Foles would come into the game, when Carson was dealing with his injuries. It's because Doug is running a completely different offense.
Exactly.
It's completely simplified. I mean, all of Nick's decisions are quick. He gets the ball out of his hands quick. It's an option, like you said, an RPO. He's faking the handoff, quick decisions. That's exactly what Carson needs right now with the makeshift offensive line. And I don't understand it. He's doing 5 to 7, step dropbacks with the makeshift offensive line, like he's not getting sacked the most in the league. I just don't understand it. I literally don't.
It'll get the ball out of his hand quicker. It'll get the ball out of his hands quicker, and it'll lead to less sacks.
Exactly. Yeah.
With the RPOs. And we're talking about using players incorrectly. Every time they bring Jalen Hurts into the game, where does Carson Wentz go? He goes out wide receiver. Why they did it twice so far that I've counted in all the games. They put it Wentz and Hurts in the backfield in shotgun. And in the last game, they did it once, and they had a very effective play because the defense did not know who was getting the snap. And then once they get the snap, then you've got another RPO there. And then once you decide to hand it off to Hurts, Hurts can then throw it down the field. There's so much creativity that they're just leaving on the table. You don't need to put Hurts or Wentz at wide receiver. Put them both in the backfield together and run that RPO. It'll throw defenses for a major loop. Heck, I brought it up on Twitter. Throw Ward back there. Put all 3 of them in shotgun. Ward knows how to throw the ball a little bit.
Yeah, if you want to run a crazy play, don't do it with Jalen Hurts, who everyone's expecting to do it. Circle Ward around back on the end around. Let him throw it. Pull the Jarvis Landry shit that the Browns do every week,
and
it works every week.
Exactly.
You can't tell me that these guys can't think of this stuff. I mean, we were thinking of it here on a podcast. We're not NFL coaches. I mean, it's basic.
I'm figuring it out.
I don't get it. You know what I mean? To your point, you come out with the Jalen Hurts packages. I don't mind the packages. I just want, like you said, him to line up in different spots and do a different play. It doesn't have to be a read option every time.
Correct.
I have
walk back and pass the ball. That's fine sometimes.
I know Johnny and Jeff say I have a man crush on Dan Orlovsky, but he's like my go-to, ESPN guy for quarterback analysis. Go back sometime in April, right after the draft. He did a video breakdown of what they can do with Hurts and Wentz both in the backfield. And I was against the Hurts pick. But once I listened to the video, I came to accept the pick because I'm like, yes, it's not the right pick, but there's some creativity that can come out of that. And there's some real positive things that can come out of it. And they have not done any of that. And it really frustrates me because it's lost plays that are sitting there on the field.
Let's be honest, too. I mean, Hurts is explosive. Like you said at the beginning of the show, Phil, I mean, he's talented. We can't deny it.
I loved him coming out of college. I loved him in Oklahoma. I loved him in Alabama. I just didn't want him on the Eagles because then you have the quarterback controversy instantly when you draft him.
But, I mean,
this comment here, I've been saying for 2 weeks that Jalen Hurts
you got to find a way.
On the field for 12 to 15 plays. He's getting out there for, I think last week he was on the field for 5 snaps last week or 6 snaps.
And you can't justify a second round pick If you don't know how to use the guy, why'd you take the guy?
Yeah.
And unless you thought that within 2 to 3 years, Carson Wentz would no longer be your quarterback. That still is the only reason I can justify with this pick. It's why I hate the pick, and it's still why this front office, in my mind, does not get a single pass no matter what they do, because they'll be tied to that pick for the rest of their careers if he fails, and I think he will.
Well, who's tied to the pick? Because from everything I read, it was only Howie's decision.
Howie and Waddell are tied to the pick.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Doug, because I don't think Doug would have ever advocated for a guy like Hurts. He doesn't fit the type of system that he wants to run.
Yeah.
Doug all along wants a guy who could stand up in the pocket and throw the ball. That's why he loved Nick Foles so much. That's why he loves Carson Wentz so much. Jalen Hurts doesn't do that. He's a running quarterback. He would fit more in Baltimore with Greg Roman and John Harbaugh more than he would fit here. Shit, he would probably fit more in Dallas.
Yeah. And you know, the Jalen Hurts pick, I mean, it's like you guys said, if you're using him enough, then it's a fine pick. Sure. I mean, I'm not fine with it in all honesty.
Yeah, I'm not fine with it.
I see Jeremy Chin on the Panthers, and I'm very disgruntled. Like there's a lot of players out there that I see that are performing well that we passed on for Jalen Hurts, who is
but he's here now.
Quarterback.
You have to accept that he's here now.
Yeah,
There's no point in saying, well, you know, we hate him, because I actually felt so bad for him on draft night, because the night he was drafted, he was just getting bashed. Like, we don't want him here nonstop. I felt bad for him a little bit, because that's not what he wants coming out of college. You know, he wants a chance to play football. He doesn't want to be a running back. He doesn't want to be Tim Tebow.
Right.
You know what I mean? He wants to be a quarterback, and he has the talent to be a quarterback. But, you know, you got him here now. You might as well find a way to use him effectively, and they're not doing that at all.
And you see some of, even some of Miles' longest runs this season. You know, he has a 74-yarder and a 76-yarder, I think, this season. Hurts was in the game for those runs, those long runs. And even if he's a decoy, that is fine. I think they almost don't use him as a decoy enough, because you saw against the Ravens game, we were looking lost on offense, as we've looked a lot this season. But he was that spark. I mean, he turned the Ravens game around, if we're being honest. And maybe they were only 5 or 6 yard plays, but it got everybody excited. They were like, whoa, we can do creative things. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think it's been the story of the season, not just with Hurts. Even when Rager was in there, he wasn't used correctly. You get a guy like Rager with his athletic ability, you put him in space. I get it. He's a deep threat. Definitely give him his deep shots. But you put a guy like that in space. You set him up in screens. You do wide receiver, sweeps with him. He's a guy that can do a lot of different things. He's not just a deep threat, such as like a Deshaun Jackson. You know what I mean? So you get this overly, quick, makeshifty guy. Get him in open space. And there's just a lot of players like that. Like I said, running wide receiver sweeps with Greg Ward, or running a wide receiver screen with Greg Ward. That doesn't make sense. Greg Ward is a slot. He finds his niche in the zones, and he sits on routes.
He gets no yards. He averages 2.7 yards a catch.
40 yards a game.
Every day. Something like that.
40 yards a game.
But that's all. But if that's all you need him for, isn't that the best? The best idea is to run Greg Ward out of the slot. You run Jalen Rager out of the Z, and you run Fulgham out of the X, and you work it that way. You work the tight ends in on either side. They'll do that next year, whether it's
I've been very hard on Greg Ward, but I've only been hard on Greg Ward.
I love Greg Ward
because they put a lot of they were hyping him up to be like the number one guy to start this year because of the injuries, and he's not. He's a perfect 3-4 slot guy, a guy that goes over the middle and makes the tough catch. And I'll be honest, I've been bashing him all year because of what the Eagles are putting on him, but he's impressed me the last couple of weeks. He makes every difficult catch.
Yeah, you gotta respect that guy's heart. You gotta respect that guy's heart. That guy bounced around 6-7 practice squads.
Yeah,
Eagles cut him at least 8 times.
Yeah. I won't go joining the Ward Horde or whatever the hell it's called.
Ward Hive. I am a member of the Ward Hive. I love that man. I said he was our starting slot. I said that back in April. I loved it. I
think Ward he's a similar case to that of Travis Fulgham. Now, Travis Fulgham, I do think, is going to be, obviously he's younger. He's a way more prototypical type wide receiver body. He's an athletic.
He's literally a JJ Arcega-Whiteside clone. You know that, right?
Yeah. Oh, I know. JJ's built for wide receiver.
He catches everything.
And I don't know what.
except athletically. Sorry, he's an athletic 98% match.
Yeah.
He's got these things right here.
He's got these.
You know,
he doesn't have bricks of stone. He doesn't have bricks of stone for hands.
Travis Fulgham blows Eagles fans away, though, in reality. You know, why is this guy blowing us away? I mean, I know he's had, some big games lately. He just does his job. He catches the football. I mean, we're not used to it, literally. And you saw John Hightower, and I was really high on him coming in. He's getting better. I mean, one catch last game. It was a huge catch. But if he can just turn out to be, that deep threat, that we can get 1 or 2 catches a game from, then that's probably his worth, at that 5th round pick. If he can just turn into like a Torrey Smith type of guy, which I think
Torrey Smith or what's the other kid's name? He was with the Saints, the punt returner / deep threat. Ted Ginn Jr. Yeah. He's not quite as fast as Ted Ginn, but if he can do that, Torrey Smith, Ted Ginn.
Well, even they knew how to use Ted Ginn, the Saints and the Panthers. They worked him out of the backfield on end arounds, jet sweeps. They ran him into space, which is what you need to do with your speedy guys. My worst fear is that the Eagles continue to try and use Hightower and Rager like the Raiders are using Henry Ruggs. The guy has 8 receptions on the year, and they've all been deep shots. You can't use a guy with as much talent as a first-round wide receiver in Rager. You can't use him like that. Like Scotty said, you have to get him in space. You have to get him involved in the backfield on jet sweeps and end arounds. Get him into the screens. Get him into places where he can catch the ball over the middle of the field, not just downfield. He can be your downfield guy, and he can be over the middle of the field guy. That is what Deshaun Jackson was for the majority of his career, is someone who not only can go down the field, but he can also go across the middle and run crossers and slants. Yeah. That's what you need.
And
that's a true star.
And to your point, I think you can even throw Rieger back there in the running back position sometimes. I mean, you see guys like Curtis Samuel, he scored a touchdown for the Panthers out of the backfield just with a simple handoff. I mean, stuff like that throws defenses off. When you see it, it's not normal. So imagine getting prepared for something all week. To your point, Sam, earlier you said, the Eagles are the easiest team to game plan for. And, sometimes Wentz is able to will us through, to a victory. Obviously, couldn't do enough against the Ravens, the Steelers, the better teams of the league.
The Washington football team?
Yeah. Well, we don't talk
you have to bring me back to that loss.
I got to.
Was that already 2 months ago?
Man. That was a long time ago.
2 months ago already?
We were semi-healthy.
Gone way too quick.
We were semi-healthy at that point. Our offensive line was still a little iffy, but we were semi-healthy at that point.
Well, the only person who was missing was Brandon Brooks. Sayamala went out in the second half of that game.
That's true. Well, Dillard was still out at that point.
That's true.
NFC East. I mean, I was actually going to say this, with Dak getting injured, out for the rest of the season, Washington probably is that other team that is going to be on our asses for the NFC East title.
Great defense and a great head coach.
Yeah, and a quarterback, even if he can just be a game manager. So I think they're right on our tails there.
I said it from before the season started with the 3 other teams getting new coaches. I like the coaching hire in Washington the best. I love Riverboat Ron. And if you look at his record with the Panthers, his first season, the first half of that season, first 10 games, he started out really slow. He was just trying to develop the culture. And then he switched quarterbacks. And then, after that, they got Cam Newton and all. Yeah. But, then he started to really develop that team. And the Panthers were a formidable team for the most part for a very long stretch of time when Cam was healthy. So, Riverboat Ron, great coach, and he will keep that team in contention for many years, no matter what their talent level is.
That's one of the best defense. That's one of the the best defensive lines I think I've ever seen.
Maybe
it's a scary defensive line.
It's crazy.
What do you got? 5 first-rounders on that line? Young, Kerrigan, Allen, Montez Sweat, and someone else who I can't remember.
To the point, you saw, even in that first game, he outcoached Doug in that game, as crazy as that sounds.
Well, after
he literally outcoached Doug in that game.
After the first quarter, he did.
Yeah, after the first quarter, which that's usually how it is with Doug. With Doug and Wentz, it's 1 to 2 quarters of the game, they're elite. And you just have to hope that that's enough to win the game because it can just never be consistent. So let's dig into the Cowboys finally. I mean, they got a lot going on there. We already kind of talked about how we feel about the game. Obviously, it's not looking good for the Cowboys. I never want to, sell another team too short, especially a rival. But that defense looks like maybe one of the worst defenses ever. And they're working on their third string quarterback, Ben DiNucci. So I
said it last night. Sounds like a kid I went to elementary Catholic school with.
The Cowboys defense looks like the Phillies bullpen this year.
It does. Yeah. And they just cut 3 more players this week. So they cut 2 and they traded Griffin.
Yeah,
so they are in 100% sell mode right now. Yeah.
As they should be.
But I'm going to throw a big but out there. We're all ultra confident in everything.
That's how it goes, man.
DiNucci, the Italian, whatever you want to call him, the Italian lunch meat man, he's got Ezekiel Elliott, he's got Amari Cooper, he's got CeeDee Lamb, and he's got Michael Gallup. Okay? He's got 4 of the most talented offensive weapons in the NFC East, in the NFC period. So if anybody's going to pull a Joe Webb and beat the Eagles,
it is the
third stringer, it's going to be DiNucci because he's actually got weapons on the field to sling the ball to. Now, we don't know if he can really sling the ball or not, but there is that little bit of fear in my mind because we still got to stop Zeke. If they hand the ball off to Zeke 20, 25 times, who's going to guard who's going to cover these wide receivers outside of whoever plays guarding?
Did you watch the end of the Washington game last week when DiNucci came in for Dalton?
No, I did not catch it.
Okay, so he looked awful. He threw
threw 3 passes, didn't he?
Yeah, but he still threw a pick on one of them. I mean, he missed all over the place. I happened to be able to catch the end of it. He looked like a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a rookie, and rookies, rookie quarterbacks with bad offensive lines usually don't play too well. I mean, look at Joe Burrow. Would you have said he looked like the number 1 overall pick after the first 2 weeks in that Cincinnati offense, being sacked 7 times a week?
Right.
I mean, the Eagles should have destroyed him that game. It was the only reason we didn't is because of Jim Schwartz. It wasn't because of the personnel. It was because of Jim Schwartz. That's the reason we tied that game. Should have never happened otherwise. I think the rookie is going to be overwhelmed. You got Brandon Graham, you got Josh Sweat, you got Fletcher Cox, you got Javon Hargrave, you got everyone in the front 7 that Washington. You got the same. You take the same approach that Washington did. Pressure often, find somehow to blitz because you just never do, and pressure this offensive line that doesn't have one single starter on it.
Yeah,
there's none. Zach Martin's out with the concussion. They're all gone. There's a third stringer at left tackle. Are you kidding me? He's going to get bulldozed. Yeah. Actually, and Terrence Steele is another rookie over at right tackle. He'll get bulldozed by Brandon Graham. This should be a huge game. At least 5 sacks. Anything less than 5 sacks on this Dallas defense. Is Martin playing? Is Zach Martin playing?
I want to throw something out you. I just was on my phone checking my messages, and one of my followers on Twitter, Brian in South Jersey, which that sounds like a WIP caller.
I'm mistaken. He is playing. Thanks for pointing that out.
His daughter played field hockey at James Madison with DiNucci, and DiNucci is a cerebral quarterback who improved through hard work and desire to be great. So that's coming from someone that's seen him play at James Madison.
That sounds like shorthand for he's bad. That sounds like shorthand for he's bad.
My thing is, Andy Dalton didn't look good behind that offensive line, so I'm not going to put my money on Ben DiNucci.
I am mistaken. Zach Martin is expected to play per Jerry Jones.
That's one starting lineman, and I heard they were talking about putting him at tackle. So good luck with that. Whatever.
We said, pressure down the victory is getting pressure on him. Our front 5, 6 rotation. You should be getting 5, 6, 7 sacks tonight. This weekend. 100% on that.
And obviously you have to keep what is one of the best run defenses in the league. You got to stop Zeke. If you can stop Zeke and Pollard, this will be an easy win.
Yeah.
Because to be honest,
what was that?
I was asking, does DiNucci have mobility? Because we have no problem stopping other teams' running backs. It's the quarterbacks and the end arounds with the wide receivers that run all over our defense.
Daniel Jones around, man.
Daniel Jones, fastest man alive. Flash out there.
I honestly definitely agree with you guys. I think this is our chance, finally for the defense to catch a break, and hopefully, just have a dominating game similar to what they were able to accomplish against the Niners. Thought that was probably their best defensive game there. Maybe the last game too. They had a decent game, but there was a couple mishaps there. As far as the keys to that game against Dallas, I think it comes back. I know I've said Carson isn't, the problem. He also cannot make himself the problem by turning the ball over. I think that could be something that holds us back. I mean, even that pick against the Giants, we were on our way. We were in field goal position. We could have took, another, even if it's 3 more points, you're getting more control of the game. And he kind of threw us out of that. And after that pick, things kind of just were erratic and the offense was looking out of whack. So I think, stuff like that, those are huge momentum boosts. If you turn the ball over against this horrid defense and you give them any sign of life, it's going to come back to bite you,
Right, because their wide receivers will punish us.
Yeah, exactly.
They can punish us.
You saw that, what was that, maybe 2 years ago where they come out, Wentz fumbles on the first possession, get sacked, and then Dallas Goedert comes out and fumbles on the second possession. All of a sudden, we're down 14-0, and we have to pass the ball every single down. So that is not the situation that we want to be in. It's not the situation I wanted to see us in against the Giants either. I think we were down, 11 points going into the fourth quarter. Not stuff I want to see against these teams. I mean, if we really, and this is something we can talk about next, but if we really, I know some Eagles fans are out there are like me, they think, hey, we get Goddard back, we get Rieger back, we get Sanders back, we get, an offensive lineman or 2 back before the playoffs. We could win a playoff game. They have the experience. They could. But, it's stuff like that. The turnovers, just get starting off on the wrong foot. It'll shoot you in the foot. And that's the last thing you want to do against these bad teams. We have to put these teams away to give me any type of confidence. The Giants game, I came out feeling worse after the Giants win than I did after the Steelers and the Ravens losses. Like, I felt better about the team coming out of those losses than I did coming out of the win.
No,
and
right. It's a valid point.
It can't be like that. You know what I mean? It can't be like that against the Dallas Cowboys. If you're not fired up for this game, when are you going to get fired up and come out?
It's Dallas Hate Week. It's Dallas Hate Week.
It's Dallas Hate Week.
It's a
come out and step on your heads. And I feel like Wentz, hopefully we see some fire out of him. You see it here and there, that fire come out of him. And I think that's when he's playing his best. When he does talk a little bit, when he's not just, slapping guys on the butt, good job. The Andrew Luck stuff, you know what I mean? I think he's better when he is fired up, yelling and celebrating if his guys are scoring touchdowns. We need to see the fire out of Wentz, come out and stomp on the Cowboys. They do nothing but disrespect Wentz as far as their fan base, their team. And I think I would love to see, a huge Wentz explosion. I don't think Miles Sanders is going to play in this game, obviously. So we're not going to run the ball that much. We know that. Doug can't stand to run the ball, apparently, which, makeshift offensive line, you can't blame him. But come out and step on their necks, man. I that's all I can say about it. You guys are spot on with getting pressure, getting, the defense involved. Wentz can't turn the ball over. Get Fulgham involved. Fulgham finally gets an easy matchup. I mean, this is the easiest matchup he's probably had. I would have to imagine.
Yeah, I think he gets matched up on the rookie, right? He gets matched up on the rookie, Diggs.
Yeah.
So not Hightower. So Ortega-Whiteside's going to have 5 catches, is what you're saying, man.
He might, man. He might have his.
Hey, he had a catch.
Everyone should eat. Everyone should eat.
Yes. Everyone should.
It should be a game where you run Reagor out there if he's healthy enough to play, but the game is out of control by the third or fourth quarter, and then you don't need to play Reagor or your banged up guys. You know, you can get the banged up guys an early start on the bye week rest. That's the only other flip side. It is the week before the bye, and teams do tend to get on vacation. You know, they lay on the brakes a little bit because they're almost at their break time. You know, so, you know, Doug's got to have them fired up, and if Dallas Week can't fire you up, you don't deserve to be on the Eagles.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you saw Slay, he was talking about it in his press conference today, you know, just how the locker room has been kind of different. It's Cowboys week, you know what I mean? And these guys are fired up. I hated him comparing it to the Super Bowl. It is not the Super Bowl. You know, the Cowboys are the ones that take this as the Super Bowl, not the Eagles. We won the Super Bowl recently.
You have to remember, Darius Slay was a Detroit Lion.
I know.
They don't know what that feels like. No disrespect to any Lions fans. We love you.
We actually, our Lions fan guy was watching earlier, Jason Sullivan. He's my fantasy guy. He actually posed a question. If you want to talk about the issue with them, he posed this earlier on the show. What's worse situation right now for the Cowboys, the O-line or the quarterback situation?
O-line. There's not a doubt.
Really? I mean, with Martin playing, I mean, you know, it helps him a little bit.
Helps a little bit. O-line, though, because, I mean, the O-line is a direct, you know, the quarterback's going to play as good as the O-line allows him to.
Correct. So if you have such a correlation like that, the quarterback can't do anything if the O-line is banged up. So the quarterback has to make his own magic happen. So I just don't think that'll happen. And, you know, Andy Dalton's already mediocre enough. So, you know, you can't really get any worse for the Cowboys. They're going to be playing the third string, but they also got two true backups at left tackle and right tackle, and that spells disaster.
Yeah, and you know, and I know we haven't talked about the Cowboys wide receivers that much because obviously you need somebody to throw them the ball. But they do have some 3 deadly, you know, big play wide receivers out there. So don't get
Darius Slay will lock down Cooper.
Yeah.
In Detroit last year, I believe Detroit played the Cowboys last year, and he locked Cooper down.
Yeah.
So who's gonna be stopping CeeDee Lamb? Who's gonna be stopping Gallup? You know, Maddox, Coleman. You know, all these guys, Craig James. They've all played below average football when they're out there and healthy this year. And I know everybody loves Strat, but you know
this has probably been the worst I've seen of him.
Yeah.
Who does Nate Gary cover this game?
Nate Gary did not practice today. He's hurt.
Yeah, he's got an ankle injury, right?
Ankle injury. So he actually may help us by being hurt and not out there.
TJ Edwards coming back.
Maybe they'll play Davion Taylor a little bit.
Well, TJ Edwards is coming back.
Yeah.
So
who knows with this team anymore?
If you got Edwards out there and Alex Singleton and maybe Davion Taylor, Duke Riley, you might not need to see
Bradley. Yeah.
You might.
Oh, God bless.
I know.
I deserve nice things. I deserve nice things. Oh, please, God, I deserve nice things.
So, we can kind of, you know, wrap up here. You know, guys are coming back from injuries. Obviously, Goddard was the big news today. Yeah, Jason Peters, Jalen Reagor yesterday. TJ.
Do you guys think Goddard is a shot at playing?
He's got a shot, but I don't think he plays.
No, I don't think he should either.
Till after the bye, let him get fully healthy. If I had my choice, I'd probably do the same thing with Reagor. Though I think we could need him for this game. It would be nice to step on their neck with a 50-yard bomb right down the field first play.
Yeah, I saw a good point about Reagor. You know, if he is good to go, it was his thumb. So that's not more, you know, it's not a hamstring or a calf injury or anything like that.
Whether you can catch a football or not. It's just whether you can catch a football or not.
It would be a good game for Reagor to get in and, you know, kind of get like a rhythm with the offense, get involved against a bad defense. So I get that side of it. I would still err.
It would be like Avonte Maddox last week wasn't really ready to come back.
Yeah.
He came back. He played like 5 snaps just to get a little bit of game speed back. And then he was just there as a extra guy in case somebody got hurt. That's what Reagor is. You bring Reagor back. You let him play the first drive or 2 if necessary. And then you don't put him back out there if you don't need to.
Is Lane Johnson playing? I saw they
heard practice today.
I saw
They need to let Lane rest. That should be a definite. I'm tired of seeing it. He doesn't need to go down this Jason Peters road of,
I think Rager's going to be good to go. I think Rager's going to be good to go.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Do we think Miles will be back after the bye?
I'm hoping so. I don't know what's up with him, man. They never give us anything on Miles this whole
Hopefully
season.
He's back for the Browns game. Even if he's not back for the Giants game after the bye, if he's back for the second game after the bye, the Browns game, that Browns game is a crucial game on our schedule.
Yeah.
Because that's a game. If everybody's healthy, we could start a rhythm, because then the week after that starts the dreaded Seattle, New Orleans, I forget the order, Cardinals, Green Bay. We got 4 conference, contenders. So we need to be right.
4 teams that we will be scheduled to lose to. I mean, we'll be dogs for sure.
We play the best teams of the NFC over the next 4 weeks.
You need to be healthy and playing good together as a team, so that maybe you could steal one of those 4 games. That gets you to 7 wins then, if you could steal one of those 4 games. Yeah. So
you know who I'm happy we're not playing this season, and I know we kind of ragged on them at the beginning of the season, but man, I'm glad we're not playing the Buccaneers. That defensive line, hell no. Those linebackers, no. I do not want to see that defense.
I said Tom Brady was old and washed up, and
I know.
Hey, so did Max Kellerman.
He washed up, man.
Hold on, let me grab this microphone. Never compare me to Max Kellerman. I'm not Max Kellerman. I'm not as good of a rapper as Max Kellerman either.
You are a better football analyst.
Anybody watching,
you need to stick the box.
Google search Max Kellerman rapping. It'll even lower your opinion of him even more. It is awful.
So we're going into, we're about to go into the bye week. I guess it's a good time to kind of get you guys' feel, have you guys both on the show here at the same time. How are you guys feeling about the Eagles' future of this season? We're not talking about next season. We don't need to talk about the offseason yet. But just going forward this season, what is, if you were to say your best case scenario for the Eagles this season? Whoever wants to go first.
I mean, I placed a bet before the season started. I think it was like $3 on FanDuel Sportsbook that the Chiefs were going to play the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I'll say there's still a shot, because once you make the playoffs, anything can happen. Dude, it's like 75-1 when I placed it, or 100-1 almost. You know what? There is still a shot. My confidence is still there that this is a 6 or 7 win team that's going to win their division. If they're healthy entering the playoffs, who knows? Seattle, when they made the playoffs at what?
Yeah.
7-9, they scared some teams. They won their first game. They lost in the second round, but they were scary. No one's going to want to play a healthy Eagles team in the playoffs, especially at the Link.
And
there's a few fans there.
Yeah, I mean, Phil's right. 7-9, anything can happen. The Seahawks, are the precedent. So, I mean, that's my best case scenario. I personally don't want to get to the playoffs. It's hard to say, but I want. I see. I can't shake the feeling that if you sneak into the playoffs with a progressively worse team each year, which has happened for the last 3 years, a progressively worse team each year, that nothing will ever change. And I want this fucking front office gone.
See, I just don't think it matters. I don't think they'll be gone regardless, man. So I guess I'd just rather make the playoffs and have a chance, because I don't think Howie's going nowhere, nowhere anytime soon. I think it would probably take 2-3 more seasons of this for him to go. It would have to be them losing ticket sales and stuff like that for him to go.
So I think no matter what happens, Schwartz is going to fall on the sword this year. Even if we make the playoffs, Schwartz is falling on the sword.
Yeah. I'll settle.
He's going to be the first one to go.
He's going to be the first.
I'll settle for that.
Yeah, I would settle for that as well.
I'd like him to trip and fall on that sword right now, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I think just get to the playoffs, which it looks like we should. Like I said, I think the Washington football team, excuse me. I think they're the only team right there, the defense, that could maybe will themselves to the NFC East Championship. And it could come down to that last game, us playing them. We play them at home at the end of the season? Yeah, we played them away first game. Doesn't matter, but either way. But I think if we can get into the playoffs, I know George here, he said he dreads a Wentz-Foles playoff game. I encourage it. I want to see it.
I want that
game for Wentz to take that throne and get Nick Foles out of the playoffs and shut all those Nick Foles lovers. Those
might not be the starting quarterback in 2 weeks of the Chicago Bears. Chicago's already calling for his benching.
They want Mitchell back.
You know how bad you've got to play football to have your fan base calling for Mitchell Trubisky? I mean, that says something about how you're playing right now.
I mean, they're just going to be calling to get Nick Foles back in 2 weeks. What difference does it make?
Yeah, exactly. You're going to go back.
It's like a carousel. It's like a carousel. Around and around it goes. Who would stop something? Nobody knows.
No, man. At least one thing I'll say about the show tonight, guys, it seems like we're all in good spirits going into this game against Dallas. The last couple years, and don't kill me for being too confident, but the last couple years, I've gone into the games with Dallas, a little nervous. I mean, they're a very talented team when they're healthy, and on paper they're scary. When you actually arrive to AT&T Stadium and you push them down, they're not that bad. But I don't know. I'm feeling good going into this Cowboys game. I feel like the Cowboys don't have any interest in winning.
That's the key right there.
Yeah, so it should be a fun Sunday night football game for us. I know the national television won't enjoy it as much as we will, but
the ratings are going to suck on that game.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be as bad as you think because Cowboys-Eagles rivalry sells
large fan bases.
Yeah, both fan bases are two of the fan bases that tune in the most to football. So it's going to be a drop, but it's not going to be as much of a drop as you think.
Oh, come on. We all just know that the Eagles are going to, come out, look like shit in the first quarter, and then somehow find a way to win this game,
They're
right?
going to make it close. I know it, man. It's like in the back
they're going to do it.
Despite the confidence, they're going to scare us.
My team will let me down. I have faith that my team will start to let me down.
You know what it may end up being, Sam? It may be like a slow start, and like the second half we dominate and take control of the game, and maybe it's not until the end of the game. But either way, you just have it in the back of your head. You know that something stupid is going to happen. I do want to throw this out there, and I'll knock on some wood, man. Keep Wentz off the ground in this game. Do not get him injured in a game like this. It's a trap game where, you win the game and then something terrible happens. So I would probably cut out the QB runs this game. Just stick to the basic offense. You know what I mean? But, yeah, guys, I guess we'll wrap it up here. We have a very, I feel, realistic outlook for the Eagles this season. I mean, they are who they are. I think we know that. Mm-hmm. The early games in the season, losing to Washington, tying with the Bengals, they are who they are. I mean, they beat the Giants by 1 point. They're a team that's going to come out and compete with every team, but that's just it. They're going to compete with every team, and even if it's the lowest of the teams. And that's who the Eagles are this season. They play down to their competition. They play up to their competition. And part of that speaks to, Doug as a coach, keeping them resilient, but then Doug as a coach who is also inconsistent and has them unprepared. So I think it kind of is, the writing is on the wall with this team. And you just hope that they get healthy, get some of these guys back. I know a lot of guys are excited about Rager. I am super excited to get Goddard back. I think he is going to be a huge part of this offense when he comes back. Wentz loves his tight ends. I mean, look how he's hitting Richard Rodgers this past game. And I think, I know Ertz is out, but Richard Rodgers isn't a bad, number 2 tight end to go with Goddard as well if you're going to run some 12 personnel out there. I know they're trying to get away from that a little bit, but, they'll still run it from time to time, I'm sure. And it'll be nice to have Goddard, that big weapon, back. And I think we've been kind of lacking that in the red zone as well. I think that's where the coaching staff's a little lost because, you usually have a guy like Goddard. Maybe he's not open, but he's going to catch it in the middle of the field if you throw it up to him. So I'm hoping we get Travis Full going. Maybe he can have, explosive game. It feels like anybody could have an explosive game on the Eagles, this next game. So it's hard to predict. But I got them at 33-10 coming out of this game. Maybe that's way too confident, but I think we finally get to relax this game. Hopefully that itch in the back of my head is not true. Good point about J-Jaw though too. It's one of those things, where like we said earlier, Doug, he gets a little confused with the personnel that he uses for specific plays. I mean, J-Jaw should be a target in the red zone. He's a bigger wide receiver, but he doesn't get used correctly. Similar to Rager, similar to a lot of guys on the offense.
It's because he can't separate. Yeah,
at the end of the day, he can't separate. And if you watch the tape, the all 22, you see it's gross. But it'll be exciting this weekend, guys. Thanks for coming on the show with me. Thanks for going live. Thanks for everybody that tuned in. Everybody that was active in the comments. It was awesome. And I can't wait to go live again very soon. Maybe for another special event, maybe a bye-week special, something crazy. We'll get creative around here. But once again, we'll go ahead and plug you guys in again. I got my man Phil Stifle. Thank you for coming on.
Going live in 30 minutes on the All About the more Dallas talk, more Dallas hatred talk in 30 minutes. Get to do it all over again. Spazzy Jeff is back to full health, so we're ready to roll on
all
that.
About the birds. And my man Sam, thank you for coming on the show once again. Swagman95, writer for 4th and Joan, writer for Section 215. One of my good buddies. Thank you for jumping on the show to rag on the Cowboys a little bit. And then me, Scotty Drowned on Twitter, Instagram. Also got the ST Philly Sports 1 sports page for Scotty Talks Philly Sports. And I'll actually be back again tomorrow. I'm actually going to interview a Cowboys podcast host and kind of get their perspective on what's going on this season and where they're at. And, kind of touch on this interesting thing that's going to happen with Dak, whether they sign him back or don't, franchise him or don't. It'll be interesting. The Cowboys are lined up for a top 5 pick as it seems like they're going for. So that'll be an interesting show tomorrow. I'll be back. But that's it for me tonight, guys. I'm signing off. Be sure to check out All About the Birds 30 minutes from now. It's going to be a good one as well. You got Spazzy Jeff and my man Johnny U. And you'll see Phil back over there as well, guys. Thanks for coming on the show. And that's going to be it. Let's go, Philly.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.